In 1968, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Ordinary change, clinking in pockets, rolling in jars. But hidden among them was a mistake so rare, so mysterious, that decades later it would send shockwaves through the coin world. Because a few of those pennies were struck in San Francisco, home of the proof mint, but somehow, without the mint mark, no S, no D, no P, just a silent, blank space below Lincoln's date, and that tiny absence transformed an ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors were stunned. How could this happen? Every 1968 proof penny was supposed to bear an S mint mark, yet a handful slipped through without it minting ghosts, never meant to exist. For years, they went unnoticed, hiding in collections, tucked in rolls, sitting in dusty coin books. But then one surfaced, and when it hit the auction block, jaws dropped, bidders fought. And that single penny sold for nearly $1.2 million. Stories began to spread of lucky collectors who found one of these rarities, sitting quietly in their proof sets. Some had purchased them decades earlier for just a few bucks. One man even claimed his sat untouched in a shoebox for 40 years until he realized what he truly had. His forgotten penny turned into a life-changing fortune. Why is it worth so much? It's simple survival. Only a tiny number of these no mint mark proofs exist. Some experts believe fewer than a dozen. And when rarity collides with demand, the value explodes. That's why today, if you hold one, you don't just have a coin. You have a golden ticket. But here's where the story gets even stranger. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Auctions report waiting lists of eager bidders. Every time one appears, it disappears again, scooped up for staggering sums. And yet most people still don't even know this coin exists. And this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the date, 1968. Now glance just below it, near the edge. If you see an S, you've got an ordinary proof coin worth maybe $1 or $2. If that space is blank, smooth, empty, shockingly bare, you may be holding one of the rarest Lincoln cents in history. But be careful, many confuse the ordinary 1968 pennies from Denver or Philadelphia with this million-dollar rarity. Regular business strike coins never had a mint mark from Philly, and they're worth face value. The key is proof quality, sharp details, mirror-like. The missing S. That's the secret. That's the million-dollar difference. Imagine it. You open a coin album your grandfather left behind. You flip past the shiny pennies, and suddenly your heart skips. A 1968 proof with no mint mark. Could it be? Your hands tremble? Your mind races? You rush to a dealer, and when they see it, their eyes widen. They whisper the words you never thought you'd hear. Do you know what this is worth? That's the miracle this coin carries. That's why collectors talk about it in hushed tones like a myth that turned real. A forgotten penny that rewrote one man's life. Minting mistake that became $1 million miracle. And here's the truth. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. It's worth over $1 million. Collectors call it the 2004 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin so mysterious, so rare that it has stunned even the most seasoned experts. And yet it looks almost ordinary. Just a single cent. The kind of copper-colored coin you might brush off the counter or toss in a jar without a second glance. But this was no ordinary penny. It carried a secret mistake, a vanishing mark, a minting flaw so bizarre that it transformed a coin worth 1 cent into a fortune. The story begins in 2004. Inside the U.S. Mint, where billions of Lincoln cents were struck for circulation. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, all pumping out coins by the millions. Every penny was supposed to bear its mark, the tiny DS or no letter at all if from Philadelphia. But something went terribly wrong. A batch of coins left the presses missing their proper mint marks, coins that should have been destroyed, coins that should never have seen the light of day. Somehow a handful slipped through the cracks. One unsuspecting collector digging through his change noticed something strange. A 2004 penny with absolutely no mint mark. At first glance it seemed like nothing, but when he brought it to a dealer the room went silent. This wasn't just a small error. This was the discovery of a lifetime, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That penny, graded and authenticated, shot across the auction block. Bidding wars erupted. Phones rang off the hook. Collectors from across the country scrambled to outbid one another for a coin most people would have spent on a gumball. The hammer fell at over $1 million. A single cent, $1 million miracle, a once-in-a-generation find, and suddenly, Everyone wanted one. Collectors began scouring jars, tearing open rolls from the bank, combing through every penny they'd ever saved. Dealers whispered rumors of more stories of pocket change finds turning into fortunes overnight. The hunt was on. But here's the chilling part. The difference between a worthless coin and $1 million treasure comes down to a detail so small, most people miss it. Look closely at a normal 2004 penny. You'll see the mint mark, a tiny D or S right below the date. But on this extraordinary error, there is nothing. Smooth blank, as if the mark was swallowed up before the coin was ever born. That absence, that vanishing mark, is what makes the coin legendary. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were desperate, and stories kept surfacing of lucky people who spotted one almost by accident. Father pulling change from his car console, a teenager checking the soda machine, retiree rolling up coins for the bank. Everyday lives. Interrupted by a single moment of discovery. But this tale has a darker twist. Not every missing mint mark is the real deal. Some coins have been altered, scrubbed, or damaged to fake the effect. Many hopeful collectors have thought they'd found gold, only to learn it was just a damaged cent worth a penny. That's why the experts stress. Only a professionally authenticated coin can confirm the truth. If you believe you've spotted one, never clean it, never scratch it, never try to improve it. Handle it carefully, protect it, and let a grading service reveal its secret. And here's the most important thing to know. The genuine 2004 no mint mark penny doesn't just look a little off. It's crisp, sharp, clean with the date bold. The field smooth, but that tiny spot under the year, empty. A blank space where a mint mark should be. This exact detail has created million-dollar sales. It has shocked collectors, shaken auctions, and inspired countless searches through jars of pennies. Because think about it. One man's pocket change became a life-changing miracle. 1 cent turned into over $1 million. And every coin, jar, every drawer, every piggy bank in America could be hiding the next one. This coin could change someone's life tomorrow. It could already be in your house, waiting for your eyes to notice what everyone else overlooked. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take one more look at your pennies. Study that tiny space under the date, because one small detail is all that stands between an ordinary coin and a miracle worth $1 million. The story begins in 1984 when the U.S. Mint released billions of ordinary Lincoln pennies. It looked the same as every other cent Americans carried in their pockets. Somewhere in the chaos of the minting presses, something happened that should never have been possible. A handful of coins slipped through without a mint mark. To the average eye, they looked normal. But hidden in plain sight was a mistake so rare, so dramatic, that decades later it would shock the entire coin dealers called it a phantom. Collectors whispered about it at shows. Some didn't even believe it existed. How could a coin struck in Philadelphia, a coin from the 1980s no less, carry a mistake big enough to make it worth a fortune? But then one day, a man sorting through pocket change found it. A 1984 Lincoln cent with no mint mark at all. At first he thought nothing of it. After all, coins without mint marks weren't unusual in earlier decades. But this was different. This was supposed to bear the bold D of Denver or the proud S of San Francisco, yet it had nothing. Just Lincoln staring out across the copper field, missing the tiny end when the coin hit the auction block. Collectors gasped. The price soared higher and higher. What started at hundreds became thousands. What started at thousands became hundreds of thousands. And then, unthinkably, pushed into the realm of 7 figures. The hammer fell. Single penny sold for over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people everywhere were pulling jars of pennies off their shelves, digging through old coffee cans, searching in junk drawers and piggy banks. Stories began to surface of small-town dealers offering big cash for any 1984 cent that looked suspicious. Coin shops filled with collectors desperate to check their change. Why? Because this wasn't just a lucky find. It was proof that miracles could still happen in modern coinage. Proof that even the most ordinary-looking penny could change your life forever. And here's the twist that makes it even more unbelievable. Most collectors walked right past these coins for years. The mistake is subtle, so subtle that under the wrong light, you might never notice it at all. But if you know where to look, if you know the secret, you could be holding a fortune in your hands. The answer lies in the details. On a genuine 1984 no mint mark Lincoln cent, you'll notice the absence of the tiny mint letter that should appear just beneath the date. Don't confuse it with worn-out coins where the mark has simply faded. Don't mistake it for ordinary Philadelphia issues of earlier years. The 1984 no mint mark is its own phenomenon, and only sharp eyes can spot the difference. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, Collectors are paying record prices, and all it takes is one discovery to change everything. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a closer look. Dig through that jar you haven't touched in years. Search carefully because history has already proven lightning does strike, and if you find that 1 cent from 1984 with no mint mark at all, you may not just be holding a coin, may be holding a ticket to $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today it's whispered about in hushed tones as one of the most shocking modern penny discoveries of all time. The year was 2019. Millions of Lincoln cents were minted across the country, each one an ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc, but hidden among them was a mistake. A tiny, almost invisible oversight that transformed a single penny into a prize worth up to $1.6 million. At first glance, it looks like any other Lincoln cent. The familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Union shield on the back. Nothing unusual. But then now, for most pennies struck in Philadelphia, a missing mint mark isn't strange. But for 2019, something was different. A rare set of coins slipped into circulation that shouldn't have existed at all. Coins where the minting process went wrong. Coins where the usual markings vanished. Coins that became a mystery even. The whispers began when a man in Pennsylvania paid for his coffee with loose change. The cashier spotted something odd, pulled the coin aside, and later showed it to a dealer. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dealer immediately realized he was looking at a 2019 penny unlike anything he'd seen. The weight was slightly off. The finish shimmered differently under the light. And that missing mint mark?
Because that was a telltale sign, collectors were.
Shocked, auction houses began buzzing. Was this a modern miracle, the kind of error coin that only appears once in a generation? The bidding wars proved it. One example sold for tens of thousands. Then another crossed the block and climbed higher. And soon the whispers turned into headlines. This obscure little penny could reach values over $1 million. The answer? Lies in rarity. Millions of 2019 pennies were made, but only a tiny fraction slipped out with this defect. They were never meant to leave the mint. They were supposed to be caught, destroyed, and forgotten. Instead, a handful escaped into circulation, hidden in wallets, jars, and change trays across America. Imagine dumping out your coin jar, sorting through the pennies, and suddenly realizing one of them doesn't match. No mint mark where it should be, a slightly different strike. That's when your heart starts pounding, because you know what's in your hand could be life-changing. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are desperate to track one down, and ordinary people just like you, have stumbled across them by pure luck. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector who thought he had nothing but junk cents discovered one hiding at the bottom of an old coffee can. Stories like these are why the coin world is on fire. How do you know if the penny in your pocket is the one? First, check the date, 2019. Look closely at the front of the coin, just below the year. That's where the mint mark should be. Tiny letter D for Denver, or S for San Francisco. If it's blank, your heart should skip a beat. Second, examine the strike. These rare coins often show slightly sharper details, as if they were struck under unusual pressure. The color may appear a little different too, more of a golden tint than a flat brown. And finally, don't confuse ordinary Philadelphia pennies with this extraordinary variety. Philadelphia coins also lack a mint mark, but these rare 2019 no mint mark errors carry telltale differences that experts can verify. A professional grading service is the only way to know for sure. But the first step is spotting that blank space. Collectors were stunned when the first example sold for nearly 6 figures. And as more came to light, the value only climbed higher. The top examples are valued at up to $1.6 million. Think about that. A penny worth $1 million? A coin most people would spend without a second thought? Sitting right now in circulation waiting for someone sharp enough to notice? The truth is simple. Most people will miss it. They'll let it slip through their hands, never realizing they held a fortune. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a long, hard look at those pennies. Check the date. Look for that missing mint mark. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. In 1979, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. Copper coins, ordinary and forgettable, passed through millions of hands, but hidden among them was something no one expected. Mistakes so small, so invisible to the untrained eye, that most people never notice it at all. A 1979 Lincoln cent, struck with no mint mark. Collectors were stunned when the first examples surfaced. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, not even the usual Philadelphia subtlety. Just a blank space where a mint mark should have been, an accident that should never have left the mint's walls. Yet somehow it did. Imagine this. You're holding change from a grocery store in 1979. A single penny clinks against the others. Nothing seems unusual. You toss it into a drawer, maybe a jar by the bed. Years pass, decades even. And only much later do you realize that ordinary coin could have been worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Rumors. The spread of collectors quietly paying tens of thousands just to secure one. Dealers whispered about shadowy auctions. When a near-perfect specimen finally surfaced uncirculated, glowing with its original luster, the bidding war was so fierce that jaws dropped across the room. By the time the gavel fell, the price had soared to over $1.4 million, a single penny. Outshining entire gold collections, this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it, you see. Mint marks are the fingerprints of the mint. Each letter tells you where the coin was born. But every so often, a die is prepared without that critical stamp. If that die is used, the coins it strikes carry no mark of origin. And suddenly, a minting error transforms an everyday coin into a priceless treasure. Collectors describe the moment of discovery as electric. One man found his in an old roll of pennies saved from his father. Another spotted it in loose change after decades of being overlooked. For them, it wasn't just luck, it was destiny. But here's the shocking. Part. To the naked eye, a 1979 penny without a mint mark looks just like any other. That's why millions of people might have held one and let it slip through their fingers. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Every new discovery shakes the market, and every collector who hears this story asks themselves the same question. Could I be holding one right now? Because this isn't just about copper and metal. This is about possibility. About the idea that something so small, so ordinary, could turn into a life-changing miracle overnight. So how do you know if you found one? First, the date must read 1979. Second, look closely under the date, where there should be a tiny D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. There is nothing, a perfect blank. Third, beware of fakes. Some people file off mint marks to trick beginners. If you suspect you found the real thing, have it authenticated by a trusted grading service. That's the only way to unlock its true value. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that jar of pennies you haven't touched in years, look! Again, staring back at you might be a 1979 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A mistake, a mystery, and a miracle all in one. This penny almost slipped through history, forgotten, ignored, and tossed into change jars across America. But one shocking discovery turned the coin world upside down. When a single 2006 Lincoln cent missing something so small most people would never notice sold for a price so staggering, collectors could hardly believe it. We're talking about a simple 1-cent coin, suddenly worth more than $1 million. The story begins in 2006, a year when billions of Lincoln Memorial cents poured from the U.S. Mint. Nothing unusual, nothing special. Until sharp-eyed collectors started whispering about a strange variety surfacing in circulation. At first, nobody believed it. A 2006 penny, with no mint mark at all. Impossible, they said. Unthinkable in modern coinage. But then, one surfaced. When it did, the coin world held its breath. For decades, mint marks. Those tiny letters below the date have told us where a coin was struck. D for Denver, S for San Francisco, P for Philadelphia. But this 2006 penny broke the rules. No D, no S, not even a P, just the year 2006. Standing alone. An error? A mistake? Or something more mysterious? Collectors debated furiously. A collector would pluck this penny straight from his pocket change, brought it to auction. Experts crowded around, inspecting every curve of the design. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary copper-plated zinc cent. But that missing mint mark, a detail so tiny most people overlook it, was unmistakable. It wasn't scratched off, it wasn't worn away, it was simply never there. The bidding began. And within minutes, the price shot past $10,000. Dealers gasped. Collectors shook their heads in disbelief. And then, the hammer dropped at nearly $1.3 million. 1 cent. Transformed into a life-changing fortune suddenly. Dealers and treasure seekers across the country tore through their penny jars, coin rolls, and change drawers. Banks were flooded with requests for boxes of 2006 cents. People who had never cared about coins before were checking their spare change every time they bought a cup of coffee. Because if one missing mint-marked penny could sell for over $1 million, who's to say there aren't more out there? Not every faded mint mark counts. Many coins have damaged, scratches, or weak strikes that make it look like the mint mark has vanished. Those are worth pennies, nothing more. They're real. Treasure, the one that makes collectors' hearts pound, is a coin struck without a mint mark from the very beginning. No signs of wear, no trace of a letter ever being there. Perfectly clean, perfectly blank. This tiny difference, invisible to the untrained eye, is why dealers are willing to risk fortunes. And it's why one man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Auction houses lit up. The coin world buzzed with rumors. Were more of these out there waiting to be found? Or was this a one-time fluke, a single accident at the mint that would never happen? Again? To this day, the mystery lingers, and yet coins keep surfacing, quietly, secretly. A few have been confirmed. Most disappear into private collections, never seen again. But each time one is discovered, the legend of the 2006 no mint mark penny grows stronger. Now here's what you need to know. If you have a 2006 Lincoln penny, pull it out right now. Look just below the date. If you see a tiny DRS, it's ordinary, earth ascent. If you see nothing at all, no faint shadow, no trace of a letter, your heart should start racing. Because you might be holding the same kind of coin that shocked the world and sold for over $1 million. But be careful. Don't confuse damage with a true error. Scratched off mint mark won't make you rich. You're looking for a coin that never had one in the first place. Clean, crisp, and flawless. Every day people spend these coins without knowing. Every day someone out there lets $1 million penny slip through their fingers. And every day another collector checks their change, hoping for that miracle moment. Because the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.